Hey guys, and welcome to my playthrough of Living Skyrim 3. Now, um, one thing I like to get out of the way is that I'm creating a build, right? So I'm part of this community that that you know that creates build for Skyrim. So it's known as Skyforge. Now there are various sites out there, and also various Reddit or maybe Discord groups, I suppose. But yeah, I belong to this one particular community called the Skyforge, and they have recently launched an event. This event largely surrounds around the theme of warlocks and witches, and I kind of have a liking to playing the Warlock class in MMOs and actually any other RPG. I try to bring in elements of dark magic, fantasy, that sort of thing. Um, One of the things I've realized in Skyrim that I've not done is actually go for the Oblivion Hunter achievement. Now, I've been playing Skyrim for quite a fair bit. I have done nearly all the date requests, but just because of how modded playthroughs were earlier, I didn't really get the achievement because that there weren't mods back then that could enable um, getting an achievement even if you're playing a modded playthrough. Well, SSE engine fixes or achievement mods enabler, these sort of mods came a bit later and they sort of fixed that problem. So yeah, you can imagine it's been way back ever since the original Skyrim came out. I was playing Skyrim, and although I've played some other games along the way, this has been a parallel effort in that journey, right? So my love for Skyrim has not dwindled, and I've sort of just grown to love it more with modded playthroughs. Now, for this build to achieve that Oblivion Walker achievement, I probably want to create an orc. I've not played an orc before, or Orsima as it's known in Skyrim, right? So, or in TES law. Reason being is I've always been partial to Bretons and those of the human or elven ancestry. But I've not played an orc before, nor have I ever played a Dunmer or a Redguard. So yeah, we'll just go with orc for this one, and hopefully I can create a build that not only pursues that achievement with all the honesty and gusto that it can be, but also, try to sort of create this or try to port over the notion of a Hexblade Warlock into Skyrim. Now, for those who do not know what I'm talking about, the Hexblade is quite literally a melee warlock. The warlock in itself is not a spellcaster who obtains his or her skills from training or naturally derived like sorcerers in D&D, but warlocks gain their abilities through pacts formed with patrons, and these patrons most of the time are all evil and devilish in nature. Now the thing about warlocks is that their powers may come from sources that are not divine, although they are divine inspired warlocks. They are warlocks who, pretty much draw contract with God or angels or some other form of divine entity. But it's more easier to obtain these contracts from, a hellish entity, and because it's a contract. The contract usually involves the trade of one's soul for the powers bestowed by the patron. Now, with that concept in mind, um, warlocks, as they gain these powers from their patrons, and most warlocks are not tied to just one single entity. They can go on to forge more than one contract with with multiple entities, right? But most of the time, traditionally, because their bargaining chip is their soul, they would have to find a means to break away from their previous contract, from their previous agreement with this hellish entity, which most of the time is done through wit and guile, not through force. Because let's face it, warlocks do not have power, they cannot overcome a demon. But they can find a loophole in the contract and they can then get away with this. they can retain the power and have their soul intact. All right. And what do? They pretty much use that soul that they have, redeemed back to go strike another bargain with another hellish entity. So yeah, Skyrim sort of doesn't do that. I mean, like you do have your own one soul, but instead you have this mechanic called soul gems, right? So where you capture the energy of the souls from the targets that you are, or that a person would be destroying. And that energy, unless it's a black soul gem, where the soul is trapped in the black soul gem completely, most of the time, white soul gems tend to contain only the energy of the soul, with the soul in itself being passed on through the ether to Sovngarde, wherever it is that the soul wants to go to, right? So, this build that I want to do, the Oblivion Walker build or the Hexblade Warlock build, whatever you want to call it, is kind of focused in that nature. It wants to derive the energy of the souls or the soul itself, if it's a black soul gem, use that as a bargaining chip in order to maintain the relevant contracts in inverted commas, i.e., the weapon artifacts of the various Daedric princes. And yeah, and so as long as this character does that, he will have the powers that have been bestowed by the various Daedric princes. That is the intent of this build. Um, as such, the orc would be the best choice because, as you can see, it has bonuses to block. Okay, and it has. Just give me a sec. Let me move out of this. All right. So it has bonuses to block enchanting, which if you're using soul energy, you'll be using a lot of you'll be naturally pumping up your enchanting skills. Okay, just by refilling soul gems or the soul energy into the Daedric weapons and artifacts, you will be naturally getting the enchanting level up. Heavy armor, they have a boost to heavy armor, which is a really good thing because the ebony mail is one of the artifacts that this build intends to pursue, and it is heavy armor. So um, one-handed, there is a natural boost to that as well. Now, the problem with one-handed is that since most of the artifacts in Skyrim are two-handed when it comes to weapons, right? There are very few one-handed artifacts, namely the Mace of Moloch Baal and I guess Maroon's Razor, if it's a dagger. So I can potentially see one of the one of the weapon combinations being that of a mace and dagger, which should give a optimal output. So that could be one of the strategies. We're not going to do too much of smithing, and then there's of course the boost to two-handed. So essentially, with block between block, one-handed and two-handed, as well as heavy armor, we can carry off this build. Now, um, moving forward, we probably want to involve some form of magical ability. Um, Orcs, as per this particular modlist, I don't think they have much of a boost to their base stats. In fact, their base stats are augmented. They don't start off at 100 magicka and 100 stamina. From what I understand, the way that the races are handled in this mod list, they are pretty much yeah, they have more of or orcs have more of a boost to health and melee power as opposed to magic and stamina. So there is another mod called AVA, which I'll be exploring later to sort of balance that out. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's just go into it. Let's create our orc. Now we've got the race selected. Let's go to the body. I'm more of a presets guy, so I will go with the preset as defined, right? It's not that I don't want to customize it. Customization will occur, but I just got to find a good preset to build off on. Now, you can go with whatever design you want for your playthrough if you do want to pursue this build. But I find this preset, preset 9, yes, I have experimented with with the preset settings before starting this playthrough. So I prefer this preset, and it sort of provides a good base to sort of you know jump off on. And yeah, I'm gonna go with this, and I'm gonna augment this further. Uh, One of the things I like about this preset, not to talk too much about it, is that it's got that Warcraft 3 vibe. You got that top knot that you see in the Warcraft 3 games, all right, and the beard as well. I mean, it's very reminiscent of an orc clan, or the way orcs are portrayed in other games as well, like savages. And in Skyrim they've chosen to portray orcs as pigmen. I personally do not like that, because the history of the orcish race in itself is one of it's a really sad tale. It's one of tragedy, right? So I'm not going to go through too much into the lore. There are various other websites that and YouTube channels that actually explain more on this. So let's focus on a little bit of the a little bit of the augmentation, all right? Um, Warpaint. Let's start with this. This has got a very God of War like Warpaint. I'm not really a fan of that. I wouldn't mind this on a Nord, not so much on an Orc. Um, so yeah, I'm probably going to change the Warpaint. Let's just go with nope, not this, not this. Oh, this is nice. This is actually nice. Okay, yeah, this clears the top, all right, and it provides a nice little. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go with this. I'm going to maintain the Warpaint color, and we'll just go with the eyes now. As far as I'm concerned, the eyes are a bit too small for my taste, so I'm gonna just make them a bit bigger. There we go. And the next thing to change is probably the brow. Now, I'm a fan of these horns that you see. Uh, Not too much on the head though. I don't mind them being near the eyebrows. And I found out that this is pretty much the closest that I can get to. It still has, it's not so much uh, not too much horns on the face, the eyebrows, the way that it's maintained in terms of its look and stature. It kind of fits in overall. So I'm going to go with that. I'm maintaining the way the mouth looks. I'm okay with this. Yeah, so not too much about that. Now on the hair, um, like I like this. This is a top knot. I like the way that it's portrayed, but I do want to have a little bit more hair, just because it provides a different look altogether. So I'm gonna go with something like this. Yeah, maybe a little bit like this. Okay, cool. So we have this setting here. Now, this is what I'm eventually setting my look to be. So that should provide some form of role play when it comes to getting just entering a city. I probably would have to talk a little bit about the character's background, so I'll do that in just a bit. But yeah, I think that's about it. So I'm just going to press done, and let's get this thing up and running. Now, I have personally chosen the name Gasrock, right? So it's kind of like along the lines of uh, traditional famous orc names like Grom Hellscream or Ogrim Doomhammer. This is very Warcraft inspired, I understand. But even in TES or ESO for that matter, there is a famous orc called Balor Bloodtusk. Now, I'm not gonna take on the name of Bloodtusk, but I'll probably come up with the name Gaz Gazrog. Gazrog. Okay, so his jaw is pretty screwed up though. You know what? Yeah, why not? So Gazrog, um, Grimjaw. Like after his, the way that his mouth is, and this preset sort of reminds me of a veteran, an orc veteran who would have sort of served his time in the Empire during the wars, and has come to Skyrim for mercenary work, for that matter. So we'll wait for the mods to load up. Um, just gonna go take a look at my boy over here. Uh, yeah, so in case you're wondering, this entire setup that you see is part of a mod located in the mod list. It's known as the alternate perspective mod. Now, the alternate perspective mod provides a what if look to Helgen before it was burned down. We're not going to explore that mod in detail. This one that's popping up right now, that's asking to assign attributes, is is the mod I believe it's AVA, attribute value assignment, and this is what we're going to use to sort of balance out the racial inequality. Okay, now disclaimer: I have played with this mod before, and I know exactly what I would want to do for my playthrough. You can choose to modify the base accordingly for your playthrough, or if you want, you may not even want to do that if you just want to make it as difficult as possible. Because this is for a build that I'm creating as part of a contest that ends on the 15th of March, I'm sort of, going to go through the main quest line as much as possible and get the achievement and probably get the build up as well before the 15th of March. So, yeah, I'm going in as fast as I can. Now, let's start off with my fortitude. Fortitude is my health. Now, as you can see, the orc racial in this game, I have elevated health and physical resistance. So I'm not going to go with that. I'm not going to pump in points, right? So this gives a whole D&D feel. Now, you don't have D&D mechanics in Skyrim, but this does introduce some element of that. Um, what do I have for endurance? Endurance relates to my health regeneration. Now, yeah, so health regeneration takes a hit. The way it works is that I would have to pump points to bring this back to base level. So in Skyrim, you start off with 100, 100 in health and magicka, and I think it's 0 in stamina in an unmodded playthrough. In a modded playthrough with base minimum mods located, I think it's 100, 100, 100. You have 100 stats in health, magicka, and stamina. So this is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to make sure everything is leveled to 100. Okay, that's and not only the base stats but also the regenerative aspects of that. So let's go for that. There we go, 100 health regeneration. Sprint cost is brought back down, so my sprint stamina cost is brought down to a lesser amount. It's at base 100, and carry weight is also at 100%, which is cool. Now we're going back. Intelligence, I guess this deals with magicka. So yeah, magicka pays 75%. Orcs are not natural magic users, right? So that's why spell duration and spell magnitude is at 75%. We need to bring this up to 100 just because we want to have a fair and level playthrough that users of the normal Skyrim would be able to adapt to as well. Or, modded Skyrim that has that earlier attribute specifications I talked about. So we're going to pump this and bring it up to 100. Right, so 100 magicka base, magnitude, and spell duration is at 100%. That brings this back up to a level playing field. Right, so wisdom, I believe, deals with magicka regeneration, and of course, there is an increased spell cost and magicka resist. Once again, falling into the law of orcs not being natural magic users. But that's it. Same reasons as before. I'm going to pump this up to ensure that it's at a level playing field. And there we go. So 0 magic resist, spell cost is at 100%, which is as per normal. It doesn't cost extra, it doesn't cost lesser. That's normal. Magical regeneration is at 100%. So normal, back, right? Now I'm guessing that perception it deals with, that's okay, that's with critical damage. We don't probably need to talk about that now. We can explore that later. Agility. So this, once again, this is stamina base. I'm bringing this up to 100%, and that way, you know, we can, of course, same logic as before, we can bring it back to a level playing field. Stamina base is at 100%. My melee speed and movement speed is at 100%. I like how this mod handles these attributes. It's very nice the way they've implemented it. I may, in another playthrough that is not linked to any challenge or any particular event, just have a normal playthrough with this particular with this Living Skyrim 3 mod list and see how I can build it up from there. Yeah, but for now we're just gonna make everything leveled. Um, agility, dexterity. Okay, we're gonna go on to dexterity. Uh, Yeah, stamina regeneration at 80, range damage at 80, jump forward. We're not gonna do much of range damage in this build, but I do want to bring this up to 100%. So let's just do that. Okay, there we are. Now we have 3 points left. Um, in D&D, a Hexblade Warlock's most important stat pump would be charisma, because all the spells and everything are based of charisma. It is their natural charisma that allowed them to draw the contracts up with the entities that they wanted to do in the first place. Now, obviously, this being Skyrim, charisma, edge, and luck and perception have different meanings. Perception is also one of the most important stats for D&D 5. So let's just go explore what those are. Perception deals with critical damage, evading an attack chance, and a power attack damage. Very useful if I do intend to use a lot of power swings. Charisma deals with bribe cost, intimidate chance, and persuade multiplier. I'm assuming that if I pump points into this, it brings the bribe cost and persuade multiplier costs down while increasing the chance of intimidation. Now, we do want to have intimidating presence or intimidating aura. That seems like a good role play, but I'm now kind of split between charisma and perception. Let's go with luck. What does luck do? Critical hit chance. That's actually pretty nice. Um, yeah, that would stack pretty well with all the weapons that I'm using. All right, so you know what? I have 3 points. I'm just gonna pump each one into this, so I just sort of like evenly spread it out. Um, yeah, let's just do that. So one into perception. All right, that brings evade chance to 0, power attack damage to 80, and so it's kind of like leveled out. Um, charisma. Maybe I'll just pump one into charisma. Not too much of an improvement. I'm going to have a tough time persuading characters or, just intimidating them in general. Um, yeah, but hey, I can probably work on it later. It has a skill in one of the trees, I suppose. And critical hit chance. Let's increase that a little bit, shall we? There we go. Increase critical hit. Back. I'm done with this, and I'm going to accept these values. Okay. Now, as the mods continue to load up, uh, this particular mod list, Living Skyrim 3, also includes another mod called Classic Signs and I think it's Classic Signs and Classes or something like that, right? It brings in the Oblivion system of wanting to sort of pre-select your class, and then you can sort of start with certain stats in those classes. Yeah, so let's do that. Okay, let's sort of do that. Um, let's do it. Okay, so I'm gonna probably implement that as well. Now I think it's this, right? Uh, reflect songs of Skyrim. I don't think it's loaded up yet. So we'll just wait we'll just wait for all the mods to load up. Um, just do bear with me. I'm just gonna take a sip of coffee. All right then. Okay, so cool. While the mod loads up, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about its backstory. We're just going to call this guy Grimjaw, about his backstory. Okay, so Grimjaw is, as I mentioned, is a veteran of the army, of the Imperial Army. Um, very strong in battle. As typical of all orcs, he's not so much of a tribal orc. He didn't grow up in a stronghold. He's more of a city orc. Okay. Um, and he sort of did his thing. He served the army. He did partake in a few conquests for the Imperials. I'm not going to go too much into the lore over there, but at the end of the day, he's sort of retired, right? But man's got to earn a living. He's got to have some grub, right? So he became a freelance mercenary, and yep, after after having his fill of Cyrodiil, he started to move on to he started to move on to Skyrim because he heard there was potential for employment, and that's pretty much it. That's his background, and yeah, let's see how his adventure pans out and how his perceptions shift throughout his journey. Also, one of the things that I'll be implementing in this playthrough is the use of the journal. All right. So the journal in itself will be documenting his viewpoints, Grimjaw's viewpoints. It'll be documenting his experiences, and moving forward, the next episode would probably, or the next playthrough would probably contain some details which I will fill out, and we will start each playthrough reading through the journal or reading from the journal, and that would provide the backstory of the his experiences the day prior and his thoughts that are reflected based on his experiences, and we'll just sort of move on from there. All right, we should have this now. We should have the power to configure. Do we have the power to configure? Orsinium's higher. You have extra 50 health and 50 health regeneration. Oh, that's nice. So sorry, on top of the health that I have and the health regeneration that I have, that was configured in AVA, I also have this racial over here as an arc. So that's nice. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong place. Ah, here we are. Select class. Let's do that, okay? Now, this is the one I talked about. So classic signs, custom class. We're going to go with the classic classes, okay? He's a warrior, so we'll be specializing in combat. Uh, would he be a barbarian? Now, what are the skills that I get? Of course, the description of the barbarian is there. You can read about it whilst you hear my voice rambling. But major skills: archery, block, one-handed, smithing, two-handed, light armor. Yeah, no, this my boy over here is going to be more of a two-handed and heavy armor dude. 10% more damage with all melee weapons. That is pretty nice. Diplomacy is for the unarmed. Nice. I like that statement. Um, I don't know. Maybe I may take light armor because earlier part of the playthrough, I may have to mix and match certain armors until I get a full set of heavy armor. Or I'll just go back and the 10% more damage with all melee weapons. That's really, really enticing. Let's go back. Let's see what is that in a warrior. Now, warrior in itself, professional men at arms, soldiers, mercenaries. It reflects his past. And yeah, so this comes back in from the whole. This kind of reflects the whole background of him being in the army. Archery, block, heavy armor, one-handed, smithing, two-handed. Ability tough. Health is increased by 50 points. Wow, that that is major. I've survived far too many battles to die in this one. Not this. This is good. If only I did not have the ability Arsenium's higher to increase my skill points by 50, or rather my health by 50. So let me understand this. I have 110% health from the get-go. Top up 50, that's 160. Arsenium's higher is what? Arsenium's higher is to another 50. So, oh wait, hang on. So 110. Arsenium's higher is 50, so that's 160. and I have, if I select this, I'll get another 50, and that'll bring me up to 210. So from the start, I'll be getting 210 health, which is a lot. It may help me survive. Um, yeah, just based on the backstory, I should select this. Technically, I should. Hmm, Barbarian or that? Extra weapon damage versus extra health. Well, the intent of this build is not to be a DPS warrior, but it's more to be a survivor. It's meant to be a yeah, it's meant to be a build that can take a hit and use the abilities from the weapons to sort of gain the stats back. So I think I would go with a warrior. Okay, I have battle hardened add-in, battle hardened added, not added, added, right? A birth sign. Okay, let's go with this. Let's go with the signs then. We'll select the warrior sign as well. What does the warrior do? Um, Warrior's charges. All right. Now, first guardian. Those born under the warrior sign have the warrior's prowess and deal 10% more damage. So I gave up the 10% from the class, only to get it over here. Let's explore the others as well, alright? What does the lady do? Lady regenerates health and magic at 25% more quickly. I don't think I'm gonna go for that. Something tells me that I won't need it. Um, Steed, of course, moves 10% faster. The Steed's fleetness. I have no idea what that is, but nah, movement speed is not going to be my thing. What about the Lord? Lord's fortitude recovers health 100% faster, but 10% more vulnerable to fire. Nope. So recovery, movement. I'm going to go with the warrior. 10% more. Yeah, 10% more damage with all melee weapons. I'll confirm this. There we go. All right. So let's see now. Okay. Just off the bat, let's take a look at my stats. So once again, improve health. Battle hardened is 20 points, so 20 points of health. Health toughness increases my health by 50, so that's 70. I have an extra 50 health, so that's let's see now. That's 120. All right, so 120 extra health uh, on top of my base health of 110, if I'm not wrong. So that makes it, wow, that's 230 off the bat. Is that it? Is that what it is? Can I check my stats here? Wow, 235 health off the bat. Man. All right. All right, cool. Yep, I definitely don't need any more boosts to health. That's for sure. I can probably, focus on magicka or stamina after this, but yeah. Um, what else? I think that's about it. We are pretty much ready for our playthrough. So there's a bunch of edits that I'll have to do. Um, in probably in my next video, I'll go through those. But until then, take care, have fun, stay safe. See ya.